Incorporate. 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 So, let's break down the word incorporate. As a verb, it means to bring something into an organization or system, usually by becoming part of that group. For example, you might say, the new business incorporated the old one. Here, incorporated means that the two businesses were merged and became one. Common usage includes phrases like, I want to incorporate my hobby into my daily routine, where it's used to describe making something a part of your regular activities. What's also interesting is that in some cases, incorporate can have a stronger sense of taking control or being responsible for something. As in, the new CEO was incorporated into the company's decision-making process. Just keep in mind that in British English, the word has a slightly different nuance and is often used to describe adding something new to an existing system. So you want to know how to use the word incorporate in different contexts? Well, let's start with a formal usage. For instance, if you're writing an academic paper about new educational methods, you might say something like, to enhance student engagement, our research team plans to incorporate interactive simulations and virtual reality exercises into existing curricula. Here, the word incorporate implies combining new elements, simulations and VR, with established ones, existing curricula. In a casual conversation, you might use it in a more relaxed tone. Imagine your friend is planning a trip abroad and says, I want to try some local food, but I also need to incorporate some of my favorite international snacks into the itinerary. Here, the word incorporate means including or combining something, favorite snacks, with other existing elements, local food. Finally, in a business context, you might say that your company has decided to incorporate green technology and sustainable practices into its operations. In this case, the word incorporate implies integrating new principles, green tech and sustainability, into existing ones. Business operations, making it a more environmentally friendly place. So, you want to know about that important word. Think of incorporate as taking something and making it an official part of something else. It's like adding a new team member to your company. They become a part of the whole group and work together. This means combining two or more things to create something new, but keeping their original qualities. For example, if you're talking about a city adopting a new law, you'd say that law is now part of the city's system. It's similar to other concepts like merge, combine, or blend, all mean taking separate things and making them work together as one. And when we use it in real life, we might say something like, the company will now have new policies, which were previously separate, but are now officially part of their overall rules. Make sense? Index. 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 So, let's talk about the word index. As a noun, an index is a list of references to specific points in a document, such as a book or a web page. In common usage, you might see an index at the back of a textbook that lists all the main topics and their corresponding page numbers, making it easy to find specific information quickly. You can also use the word index in other contexts, like talking about a stock market index that shows how well different companies are doing financially. One special note about using the word index is that it's often confused with the verb to index, which means to create or update an index for a document or database, so be careful not to mix up the two. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word index, along with their respective contexts. At the conference, the professor explained that the new study used a composite index to measure economic growth in developing countries, taking into account factors such as GDP, inflation rate, and unemployment numbers. This formal usage demonstrates how the term index is employed in academic or business settings, where technical terminology is required. In contrast, when chatting with friends at a coffee shop, you might say something like, "I was reading this article that used an index to determine the top 10 beaches in the world. Have you ever been to any of them?" This casual conversation usage shows how the word index can be used informally to refer to a list or ranking. On the other hand, during a job interview for a data analyst position, your response might include, "To determine the most efficient route for our logistics team, I created an index that weighed factors like traffic congestion, road conditions, and vehicle capacity. It helped us save over 10% in fuel costs." This business or academic usage highlights how the word index is used to refer to a mathematical model or formula used to evaluate and compare different scenarios. So you want to know about that list of letters and numbers at the beginning of a book or magazine. It's actually a special tool that helps us find specific words or articles quickly. Think of it like a map or a guide that tells us where to look for what we need. The main characteristics are that it has letters, usually in alphabetical order, followed by numbers. It's used to help us navigate through the content and get straight to the page or section we want. Some people also call it a finder or a pointer, but you might see it referred to as a specific symbol made up of lines and numbers. Inhibit. 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 Let's talk about the word inhibit. As a verb, inhibit means to prevent something from happening or to stop someone from doing something. For example, the laws will inhibit the company's ability to pollute the environment. In common usage, people often use inhibit in situations where they want to show that something is being stopped or prevented, such as in scientific or social contexts. What's interesting about inhibit is that it can also have a slightly more nuanced meaning, depending on the context. For instance, if someone's emotions are inhibited by a particular situation, it means their feelings are suppressed or restrained in some way. In a formal context, you might say, the new government policy aims to inhibit the growth of polluting industries by implementing strict environmental regulations. This sentence uses inhibit to convey that something, the growth of polluting industries, is being actively prevented or restricted. In a casual conversation, someone might say, "I'm trying to quit smoking and I need to inhibit my habit of lighting up whenever I get stressed." Here, the speaker is using inhibit in a more informal sense to mean controlling or resisting an impulse or behavior. A business or academic context might use, the company's HR department will implement training programs to inhibit workplace bullying by addressing discriminatory behaviors and promoting inclusive environments. In this example, inhibit suggests that something, workplace bullying, is being actively prevented or reduced through specific actions. So you want to know about this concept that helps us understand what happens when something stops or holds back another thing from happening or growing. Well, imagine you have a plant that's really eager to grow and reach its full height, but there's something in its way, like a wall or a fence. This something prevents the plant from getting taller or spreading out as much as it could if everything was perfect. It's like a blockage or an obstacle that keeps things from reaching their full potential.